Buenos días. Hoy vamos a presentar el assessment número 2, creo que se llama, que corresponde a la presentación oral número 2, realmente, no el assessment número. Head over presentation number 2, when the students are going to present the project that we are working. So, Roberta Murray, you have the floor. Welcome. Good morning.
Lo siento, I'm trying to find it. Alexandra, you want to go while I try to find my paper?
It's okay, it's okay. Take your
Okay,
time.
let me just,
Doesn't
I
matter.
pretty much know what it is in my head. The aim of this paper is to try to assess the attitude of teachers teaching Spanish in the Bahamas. It is an introductory type of research just to get a conversation started, because it's going to be limited in time. It's going to be limited in the scope of the person being interviewed, because it will really target 10 to 15% Black teachers. The criterion for those persons would be they would have to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree. They will have to be teaching for a minimum of 2 years. The reason being is we're trying to get persons who would have had a vast, I guess, scope of students. They would have seen a lot of students over that time period, so that their assessment could be well-based or better rounded, I suppose. The need, in my opinion, the need for this paper really is to really see why Spanish is not doing as well amongst the Bahamian students the way it should, or the way I'm thinking on a level that it is. Is it because the resources are not being properly allocated to assist the teacher? Is it because the method or the way the teachers are teaching, is it antiquated? Maybe they need to find newer strategies to target the Bahamians, the way we think, the way we learn, the way we interact. Are we using a system that's designed for a different class of people? It's important because I think because Spanish is nowadays, even more recently, children in the primary school are starting to learn Spanish. But it's disheartening to see that you can be grade 12 or you can even be in the University of the Bahamas, and really you still don't have a good handle on the language. Clearly there is something that's wrong, something that's broken, and we need to be able to identify what it is. Is it, like I said, is it because for the most part we have predominantly foreign teachers who are teaching our students, and it's not that and we need a balance. We need both foreign and we need the Bahamians. However, is there a disconnect because of culture? Is it a disconnect because they're not understanding the way we think, we move, we operate in order to get the language across to us? Is it because we're not getting a lot of input? With Spanish, one of the things I'm learning now, because even with me studying Spanish, I still have a challenge. I cannot really fault my lecturers, and it's not that I'm not doing what I need to do, but I think that, and from a personal experience, like I said, that it's something lacking. I cannot really put my finger on it, but I know it's lacking, and I think about it all the time because I'm experiencing it, and I'm experiencing it as someone who is who have what, maybe a year left in Spanish to get a baccalaureate.
Okay, are you there? Roberta?
Can you hear me?
Yes. We have
Sure.
I listen. I need to then listen you again when the record because the communication was not, the connection was not the best. I don't know if Alexandria understood better than me and she had something to say.
I could have heard her fine.
You heard me?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
heard you.
Oh, okay. Which part did you hear, Mr. Professor?
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Keep on.
So like I said, for me, I think that's a great move to find out what is the challenge? Is it the teachers? Is it just the students not having a interest or not seeing the importance of the language? Is it just something that you do just because they're making you do it? Or is it the way it's being presented? Um, So for, like I said, that's a very, in my opinion, you need to find out because it should not be that you go through all these years of learning Spanish and you still cannot have a basic conversation outside of the hola, buenos dias, buenos noches, I mean, the regular stuff. Senor. So for me, the methodology in this particular research would pretty much be a survey. Targeting, like I said, 10 to 15 teachers, just to get a feel of what their perspective is. To see like questions such as questions that would kind of be asked would be naturally their age, to see the ratio between male, female, and whether they're younger, older, whatever the case may be, their nationality, to really see if it is who's teaching our students. Is it predominantly foreigners? Is it predominantly Bahamians? As well as an attempt will be made to get that information from the Ministry of Education to see what is the population like in terms of Bahamians, non-Bahamians. Like I said, the degree level also will be asked, as well as the number of years teaching. Other questions that I'm playing with is if in their opinion, if students are only taking the Spanish language just to get a grade or because it's mandatory. Because in some schools, it's just you have to either select between Spanish and English, and sometimes persons just use Spanish, it's just easier, just because like how to do this, I'm doing it without any sincere interest in the language itself. Because even if you pay attention to UB, because Spanish is one of the general education requirements, that Spanish is Spanish and Creole, most persons ought to be Spanish. Spanish is probably one of the biggest barriers in UB. But is it because they're interested or is it because I just need to do this? And so maybe there is not a genuine interest, and that's why a lot of students are not really putting effort into actually trying to learn the language because it's only about the grade.
Hey, Roberta.
Hi.
It sounds like your microphone is going in and out, like you're going far away from the microphone and then coming up close or something.
No, I have in a headset. The thing is,
It's better, yeah.
Okay, like if you put the microphone up to your mouth, I think we can hear you better.
okay, what about now?
Yeah,
All right,
okay.
thank you. Okay, yes, just my other questions that I'm actually toying with is if in the opinions of the teachers being surveyed, if they think that the students themselves think that, like I said, the language Spanish is important, is there really a need for them to learn Spanish? And maybe all of this is a part of why they are not receiving the language or not being motivated enough to really become fluid in the language, or really to get more from it. One of the questions that I think I would want to ask is the individual, if they were in charge of Spanish, I think it was my mask on, that was why. If they were in charge of Spanish in the Bahamas, what would they do to improve it? Or where do they see the breakdown, or is, whether it's, like I said, lack of support, lack of resources? Is it them? They're thinking that these children just ain't interested, and so you're just doing what you have to do. And what is it? What is it that they're thinking seems to be the challenge with teaching Spanish? I don't know if you all have any questions for me.
This is wonderful. What you're saying, this is wonderful. Keep on.
Like I said, I'm talking off the top of my head because I still can't find my document. But
Keep
pretty
on, keep
much,
on.
like I said, for it's a basic and introductory, because like I said, the specimen is so small. So it still won't be a true reflection of the attitudes. It's just tipping the iceberg, just touching it, starting to open up a conversation, like I said, to really, okay, this is what is done. Maybe we need to look in this. Maybe we need to expound on this, and maybe we need to do a deeper, a bigger research. Maybe we need to survey more teachers. Maybe we need to survey students. Maybe we need to see both sides of the equation. Not with this particular research, but I'm saying that's the intention behind my research, was to see what is going on with Spanish in the Bahamas, because we should be further than where we are. Spanish is a very important language. And in the next couple of years, Spanish will probably be the #1, or Hispanics actually in the US will outnumber Americans. Spanish is that important. And for us to not try to get a handle or get a jump on the way it is going, we will be seriously disadvantaged, even from an economical standpoint, because we are a tourist destination. And if Hispanics are going to be the one of the #1 in terms of race, and so even with them being in terms of numbers, that means they also have the economical power. That means they also have the influence and the finances to go with it, because that in their industry is a big industry. So we need to be able to tap in so that we can translate just learning the language into economics. So
in Spain,
that's
it's about the 10% of the internal product, gross internal income, whatever. Yeah, 10% of the Spain.
yeah. And so, like I said, so I think we are missing out on opportunities. As like I said, as a tourist destination, as a financial destination, because we do have a lot of offshore banks here, and a lot of them, one of the requirements for being hired is the grasp of the Spanish language. So we can kick and fuss as much as we want. Oh, they bringing in expats, or they bringing in foreigners. But if they're the ones with the qualification, then that's that. You put yourself at that disadvantage because you didn't take advantage of the opportunity provided, and not taking advantage maybe as a result of the teacher's attitude. It may be a result of your own attitude. We don't know. And so that's what we're trying to find out. What is it? What is it, and how? And then when we find out what it is, we can then go about the business of trying to fix it. Because really everybody will benefit if we really pursue Spanish and pursue Bahamians becoming more fluent with the language. And I think that's my little 5 cents, my little 10 cents. Any questions, comments, any guidance? Maybe in terms of what else I may need to ask, or anything. Floor is open.
What about the the way how you figure your questionnaire will be open question.
About the way I didn't hear the
Because
question.
when you somehow define that what you are going to ask is what is going on in the Spanish in the Bahamas, and what kind of things could be done in order to improve, on what are the challenges, or this kind of question that you are going to ask the teacher will be an open question.
Yeah, that's I have that there is open because everybody can have a different opinion.
That's it.
And
yeah.
everybody else can have a different idea. They may say, okay, well, I think that in order for children to really learn the language more, we need to make it more hands-on in terms of let's take them outside. If we're doing, let's say fruits or vegetables, bring in the fruit, let them, let it just, I don't know if it's like I said, if it's the way it's coming across, if it's just, I think it cannot just be whiteboard. It has to be practical. They have to see where it makes sense.
Yeah.
Or they have to be able to relate to it. Even if you take it from a Bahamian perspective and then pull it into whatever the lesson, I don't know if it's not being done. And that is what we're trying to figure out right now. Maybe it's the way it's being taught. Or maybe we need to do more things too. Or maybe we need to really focus on outside of just the conjugations and the this and the that.
Yeah, but all
We
these
may-
maybes should be included in your questions in order to, make sure what you are going to support them or to conclude them. You know what I mean? When you ask as a researcher, maybe something happened, maybe something happened, maybe something happened. All these things you should somehow analyze it, in your question in order to provide an answer to that maybe. You know what I mean?
I am hearing you. Like I said, I'm just thinking about questions. And so this is what I had little jot. So as I think, I just write it down and then.
No, you are I think you are in the right way.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is the way. What I think is, for example, how many teachers do you think you can find, and what are the distribution of the Spanish teacher in Nassau at least? How all the school in Nassau teach Spanish? Can we understand the distribution of them, or why we are going to choose this teacher and not that one, or how are we going to get the teachers? Because they will be our sample, right? And the universe, how many of them are? Or some date, some information that we can get in order to plan what will be the strategy, or if there is not a strategy, well, we need to adapt. Okay, when, where, how is the place where we need to adapt. This is what I'm lacking. This is what I needed. Because I found that all the questions that you are having are definitely so. I'm very excited. When you start talking, I listen to you, and I'm, yeah, celebrating because you are the Bahamian, and I actually need to talk to you personally because I want to talk with the president, and maybe you can help me. So this is a personal thing. This is not related with the university, but will be related with the university. Because I think if we can create here a policy to foster the languages, I have an idea how can we do that, and how can we promote the awareness of the population on foreign language. Well, this is a big idea, dream idea, but these kind of things are how the policy maker do. So I think the new president, the new government would be interested on promote this kind of thing. But think of the point. This is what maybe you can help me or somebody here could help. But yeah. relate what you were talking about in Spanish, I think that you are en el clavo. Tú estás dando justamente en el punto. ¡Cling! So all the things that you get will be perfect because there is nothing, or there is some a few. But as soon as you start research, we should include, for example, in this question, to ask the teacher if they know about a work that has been done to present what the status of the Spanish teaching in Bahamas is. Because probably 10 years ago, there is a publication, there is something that somebody produced, and we don't know because this is not an official publication. But anyway, for research interest is quite important because this information could help to give you an idea what the approach has been done, and then because my hypothesis, my personal hypothesis is that nobody knows nothing about that. The people who came here was people who came from foreign policy and cooperation situation between the countries which Bahamas had relations. One of them, Costa Rica, other than Cuba, other than Venezuela in their times. So why? Because Venezuela in the 80s, they had a lot of petroleum and they produced oil diplomacy, and Bahamas was friend of the United States and was friend of Venezuela and was friend. Also, there is a way to, Venezuela provides petroleum and Bahamas support Venezuela in the political environment decisions, in the government, I don't know, nation, this kind of thing is how the policy works. So, as you say, the Spanish language is a power, it's economical power. It's part of the 10, more than 10% of the gross income of Spain is produced by the Spanish language. And it's incredible nowadays how the Spanish-speaking countries in America continent, they are trying to get a space in the big market of the Spanish learning and Spanish teaching, because Spanish is the second language in the United States, as Roberta highlighted. And that's because of the United States is the United States is one of the most important language as a consequence worldwide. And then we have about 500 million of native speakers from Mexico to Argentina and Spain and other countries. So this situation is creating interesting intercultural environment and research over, interest. Yeah, the thing that I have been doing is exactly this. This is a glottopolitics approach of the sociolinguistic discipline. And this is what I have been researching in my doctorate, in my publication. It's about, the policy of the languages, the political history of the language. So for me, what you are saying, for me, what you are doing is something huge, interesting. Yes, and I hope that we can keep on working that, and because there are a lot of things that have to be done. Yes, so what I need is that you define the teacher, how many teachers are, that you define the universe. How are the universe of Spanish teaching and learning in Bahamas? We know, or I only know, the universe of the higher education. I need to know the basic education. So that's why your work is incredible, useful for me and for everybody, because there are no publications on this topic. So, for example, I know that some of the part-time teachers in the university, Spanish teacher university, you know better than me, they are also teachers in the schools. I know two, or I have information that 2 or 3 of them teach at the schools. So, you know, I can provide you of their phones as a way to establish a first contact and, you know, to try the questionnaire, because we need to finally also I need to have the question, what the first question is, what the second, the third, the fourth, and I see them, you know. Yes. So as soon as we have this, we can try with 2 or 3 teachers and then see how the questionnaire works and then define, spread the study, you know. And we include the answer that this first or 2 or 3 answers that we got as a try, we could, well, we can decide then if we include it or not, but I think we will include it into the sample. So do you follow what I say, Roberta?
No.
No?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Well, how do you feel now with your topic after?
I feel, honestly, because this is really, really new to me.
The microphone close to the mouth. I don't listen. Honestly, what?
Oh, sorry, lo siento. For me, honestly, because this is new to me, this is my first time doing something on this level. And me having the challenge with the COVID earlier, all of that factored into how I felt about doing it. Honestly, I was kind of petrified because I didn't think that I knew what I was doing. I won't even lie to you. I won't lie. And I think I told you that. I was intimidated to actually even engage in doing it. I know that I have to do it to pass the class, but now for me, because I have a better handle on my physical state, as well as I am pretty much up to date with all of my classes. It took a lot to get there. So for me, I have more clarity in my mind. And as a result of having clarity in my mind, I'm only now getting excited or really, really putting myself into it. I won't lie to you. I was just putting something up to say, okay, he needs this, let me do this. He needs this, let me do this. But because it's a passion of mine, I think it was easy for me just to even put what I put together, if the truth be told, because it just flowed, even though I didn't realize it was. But now, honestly, I am excited, for lack of a better word, to actually be doing it, to actually even think about, hey, maybe my work could be published, or maybe my work is going to be published.
Definitely.
No, I'm just saying. It was never, ever thought that even came in my mind. Because one, I didn't even know what it entailed. One, I didn't even know how to go about publishing something. One, I didn't think my writing skills was on point like that. Like I said, because it's something new, but after you talk and you keep talking and you keep pushing, oh, you need to publish this. I say, okay, why this man keep talking about publish this? I say, okay, Roberta, maybe he's here to stretch you, to get you to think in a different vein and to get outside the box. And I think when I looked at it from that perspective, my mind shift. I had a shift in my mind, and that has led to actually me outside of wanting to get a good grade. I actually want to be able to do it.
Yeah. agree.
And I want to be able to not just do it for the class, but maybe look at doing it for something else, or maybe look at extending it or building upon it. I know I have to do thesis and all that other kind of stuff. So for me, like I said, this is a good forerunner
Yeah.
for the thesis class. And so if I have my practice now with getting my how to go about the research, what is the methodology? How do you ask these questions? What it is you're trying to find out. So even in me just reading, trying to answer the things that you've asked us to do, I have learned a lot. So I can actually speak a little intelligently on the subject in terms of what is the methodology, sampling, what is this, what are the assumptions? Like, okay, what's assumptions and all that kind of stuff. So, so for me, like I said, having to put it together to give you the first draft, I think it was, I had to read, and I had to look, I looked at other papers before I would just look at a paper and just to get a little quote here and cite something and, just throw it. I didn't give it my best effort, to be honest. But I found myself actually sitting down and trying to read the document to see what their arguments or see what their purpose is, see what the statement is, see what their abstract is. So to be able to try to teach myself how to try to put something together to give to you. And so for me, like I said, I am excited to actually do the paper, to at least try. And it isn't even about the grade anymore. It's just about accepting the challenge and going after it and trying to find out and figure out what the problem is. And like I said, that's a passion of mine, because like I said, I know I struggle. I know I'm going to get it, and I know. And so for me, I'm using myself as a test. So if I'm able to figure out what this disconnect is for me personally, I'm sure it's the same for others. And I don't think it's because they don't really want to learn it. I think they're afraid, or maybe they don't think they can, or maybe we're not getting enough input in terms of we're not listening to enough Spanish, we're not reading enough Spanish, we're afraid to make errors, we're afraid to speak in Spanish. We go back to our A language, or our A language is English. So instead of just saying it in Spanish and not messing up, but you know what I mean, maybe not getting it, the conjugation right or whatever, we hold back and we prefer not to speak. Right. But for us, it matters because, like I said, I think we need to get beyond the grade. I think the grade in our head is the thing, or being correct. That's the barrier. Us wanting to be correct rather than speaking. And the more we speak, the more we'll understand, the more we read, the more we listen, the more Spanish we get into our hearing. Or we say, oh, they just talk too fast, so we just dismiss it, rather than treating ourselves to, okay, I might get it today, go back at it again, I get it tomorrow, or I don't need to understand everything. I just need to get the main points, and then I'm able to figure out what it is that's being said. So I think all of those are barriers or blocks. And like I said, for me, it's just a matter of trying to figure it out.
Yeah, the interculturality is about overcome this obstacle and this barrier. And this is, the most important thing. And no matter how you communicate, the important is to do it, and to start to live in another language and to become able to get access to that word that you don't know. So I found very, very, very interesting that you are motivated, with the topic, that you are excited what you are doing, because this is the most important thing when you do a research. So there is nothing worse in the work that do the thing that you don't want to do, by default. So when you want to do something, everything flow better, everything shine, and the life is beautiful. So congratulations, because this result is even better than the mark. So as I told you the first time, my policy, let's say with the marks, is that you already got the 10. If you don't want to learn, if you don't want to do so, let me know, and I, put you there, and don't let us change, lose the time, and don't, you have to commit with what we are doing. So I'm very proud that you are in the way. So congratulations, and keep on, keep on, because November is a miracle month. I'm not going to shave because in Australia I learned to celebrate November, so I don't shave in November. But in November we need to work a lot, seriously, because we need to get that information. We need to do the field. We need to define this week, actually, the questionnaire in order to next week start to do getting the information, and then keep on learning and reading the questionnaire that we are going to start receiving, and in the same time look how we are going to link this result that I'm already figurating or understanding what they are, smelling, what they are thinking, with the theoretical approach, because the most important thing is always respond to the question that you are doing in the work. What are these questions? What are the hypotheses? What are the objectives of my work? So this should be defined, should be included, and should be also highlighted. I, unfortunately, the first part of your speech, I need to listen again, because Alexandra and me was really hard to understand for me especially, But I will listen again, and of course, yeah, give you more feedback. But I need that provide me with the questionnaire, with the information about how are you going to get this T-shirt, what are the questions that you finally will be. We already understand that will be open question. And what about the definition when they say the demographic info? All this, the questionnaire by itself, just try to put in a Word document the question, and try to organize your idea, because what you are expressing orally is interesting, and it's exactly what we have to do. So everything that we get in that study will be useful, and our problem will be stop it, because we will want to get more. So we will need to define a limit, and that's it. And this is, I think, will be our main problem, because there is a mine of information. But thank you, Roberto. If you don't have anything else to say, I will continue with Darne Farquharson. Thank you, Roberto. Darne, are you there? Yes. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. I'd like to share my screen, please.
I give you the power. Oh. Okay. Yes. You got it.
Okay, so I changed my topic title to an analysis on Afro Latino poachers in the Bahamas. So the table of contents are, we'll go over the topic introduction, the aims and objectives, the literature review, and the methodology. Okay, so poaching is the illegal taking of fish and or wildlife in the Bahamas. There has been an ongoing conflict between the local fishing industry and poachers. Fishing is $1 million industry in the Bahamas, and many benefits can be gained from fishing, such as earning a livelihood. The Bahamas' waters are populated with a diverse and abundant marine life, which not only attracts fishermen but also tourists, who are essential to the Bahamian economy. Through research, it has been observed that there are two major groups of poachers, Dominicans and Cubans. Cuban and Dominican marine ecosystems have been exploited and their fisheries have been negatively impacted. As a result, many of their fishermen, due to proximity and accessibility, venture into Bahamian waters to harvest various fisheries. This research paper will examine the ongoing illicit activity of poaching by Cuban and Dominican fishermen in Bahamian waters. So the reasons for this study are because of the recent 2020 fisheries bill that was unanimously passed in Parliament, the increased sightings of Dominican poachers, and the flamingo incident.
Poaching has been a major concern for decades, and many fishermen have complained that their catch is well below their investment because foreigners are raping our waters. Well, our Juanita Swain was in Spanish Wells and she talked to a number of fishermen. Fishermen of the vessel First One say their recent fishing trip, short of 2 months, netted a noticeably decreased catch, but they also stumbled across something else. Ronnie Pender, a fisherman of 35 years, shared with ZNS News reported Dominican bait cups they came across.
Actually, they're using them in our condos and putting them by the mouth of the traps to bait. As well as the reefs. Yeah, as well as the reef, to bait the crawfish to our personal traps, so where they could come by and get them when they ready to reap them.
Pender, along with Lance Pender, say they collected about 50 or more of those bait traps, which he believes was clearly made in the Dominican Republic.
It shows you the manufacture date, which was June the 3rd, 2014, which means that these were put on the Bahama banks during our off season when we were home, when the banks were supposed to be being protected by the Defense Force. No one's out there. They are out there. All of these were manufactured and put out there.
The Benders and other Spanish Wells fishermen say they found very little when they fished the Bahama banks at the opening of the crawfish season. The crew of the Papa J had similar concerns.
This season, we're probably down 20 or 30% in our catch, and we can't continue as we're going right now.
Dominicans on the southern Bahama banks, they are leaving nothing. They're taking spawny, they're taking small, they're taking all fish and all conch.
The fishermen said a number of measures can be implemented to protect and conserve the fishing industry.
To see that no permits of any kind should be issued to any non-Bahamian to be on any fishing vessel in the Bahamas, not even as a mechanic or a deckhand.
Throwing in more Dominican boats. I want to see them throwing in 2 Dominican boats a month. We spend all this money on these new Defense Force boats, and I'm looking to see something done.
There are hotels in this country that are buying crawfish under market value out of season. It has to stop.
Fishermen on this island are all in agreement about one thing. They say if the fishing industry is not protected, it will only be a matter of time before it dies. Jimenita Swain, ZNS Network News. One day after they were apprehended for alleged poaching in Bahamian waters, 81 foreign fishermen on board 2 Dominican fishing vessels arrived in the capital this afternoon. The Defense Force confirmed the U.S. Coast Guard tipped them off about the location of the vessels El Ship and Angel Gabriel in the area of Diamond Point in the Great Bahama Bank Thursday morning. Defense Force patrol craft HMBS Livingston Smith transported the fishermen to the capital, and HMBS Lignum Vitae escorted the captured
craft. The Dominican fishermen, along with their vessels and fishery products, were handed over to the relevant authorities for further processing. This is the first poaching of foreign fishermen by the Defense Force this year, or the first capture for this year. And Marines were also successful in apprehending local fishermen for fishing violations as well. Defense Force Commodore Commander Raymond King told our news team today that Marines are on high alert to capture any illegal fishermen.
But we understand that as COVID restrictions are relaxed in our neighboring countries, we anticipate now that their vessels, as demonstrated in the most recent arrest, would now seek to come in and poach. And would be ready.
One day.
I down in the next freezer now. There's another freezer. There's another freezer here. Long crawfish, brother. Long crawfish, undersized, everything you can name. Crawfish. Yeah, crawfish meat. There's crawfish meat here. Small ones, you break them out. Undersized grouper. Everything you name, they get now. Everything. I don't know what we could do as a country, boy. I don't know. You get turbot. You name it, they get it now. Every where you find a turbot, they get turbots and everything. Look up here. Look up here, brother. Everything you can name, they get now. Everything.
Agriculture and Marine Resources Minister V. Alfred Gray also disclosed before the weekly cabinet meeting this morning that the Dominican government has made several agreements with the Bahamas to ward off poachers. This following talks with that country last week.
Agreed to is that both governments would use their best effort to enforce the laws of their countries. And it seemed to me that they are willing to prevent, to the extent that they're able, their fishermen leaving their ports for further than a particular distance away from the Dominican Republic. And they have indicated that they are going to insist that each boat has what they call a tracking system, so that if they leave beyond a certain point of the Dominican Republic, they will know that without anybody telling them. They will track their vessels to ensure that they stay within the parameters set before they leave the Dominican Republic to go fishing. And that, to me, is progress.
Increased patrol of the marine borders has contributed to the reduction in the amount of Dominican fishermen found poaching in our waters. That coming from Marine Resources Minister, the Honorable V. Alfred Gray today, who credits the Defense Force for beefing up patrols thanks to increased fleet. He also noted that while local authorities pay close attention to protecting our borders, Dominican authorities have still not lived up to their agreement with the Bahamian government.
One of the things they said to us was that they were going to ensure that all Dominican fishing vessels coming out of their ports would be fitted with a GPS system, which would monitor once they go outside their territorial waters. That never happens. And so boats come as far as the Quisal banks, and obviously it means to us that they did not do what they promised in that regard. But whether they do or whether they don't, the Bahamas government is very focused on ensuring that fishing is reserved for Bahamians only. And whenever and wherever we find poachers, they are going to be arrested, their boats confiscated, and they will feel the full brunt of the law.
Increased patrol of the
Okay, now I'll go over the aims and objectives for this research paper. The first aim is to reduce the literary gap of academic research on poaching of Bahamian fisheries. The second aim is to discuss Afro-Latino and Bahamian relations. The third is to identify the magnitude of the current poaching situation. The fourth is to observe the impacts poaching has on various communities. And the fifth is to local officials, analyze the methods local officials are using in combating the problem. And the sixth is to develop possible ways to reduce poaching by Afro-Latino fishermen. So I'm going to expand on objective 1. Gaps in the literature are missing pieces or, hold on, one moment, please. I could barely see my computer. 1 second. Okay. Gaps in the literature are missing pieces or insufficient information in the research literature. These are areas that have scope for further research because they are unexplored, underexplored, or outdated. Currently, most available data on this topic of poaching on Bahamian fisheries are via media outlets such as news reports, law official reports, or blogs. There exist several academic articles on Bahamian fisheries and articles on poaching other of other species in other countries. These articles will be reviewed in the literature review. This paper will blend the two topics of poaching, specifically in the Bahamas, to focus on an important issue in the country that is not sufficiently discussed in current literatures. Next, the second objective. The Bahamas, first influenced by the Spanish, dates back to when Christopher Columbus, under authority of the Spanish Empire, discovered San Salvador in 1492 on his expedition of the New World. However, unlike its neighboring countries, Cuba, Dominican Republic, countries of South America, and the once colonized Florida, the Bahamas was colonized by the English as opposed to the Spanish. Although the country is surrounded by Hispanic influence, there is not much literature on the relations, particularly with Afro-Latinos, have on the Bahamas. A brief overview of historical relations between Afro-Latino communities and Bahamians and its commonalities will be discussed. For objective 3, the topic of poaching is not as popular as other conversations in the Bahamas like tourism, immigration, and healthcare, unless its activities are trending. The latest news on the fishing industry that made major headlines was the topic on the 2020 fisheries bill. Since then, news on Spanish poachers and or fishermen has not been as frequently reported. This observation produces a need to research how common and impactful these activities are and if the problem should be taken more seriously by officials. For objective 4, generally, poaching negatively impacts various communities and environments globally if its activities are not efficiently managed by officials and organizations. Some of the major consequences of poaching are endangerment of species, weakened surrounding ecosystems, cripple revenues or economies, and pose various health risks. Some of the impacts are seen within within the Bahamian fishing industry and its various fisheries, impacting both economic, social, and environmental factors. So this paper aims to further discuss and analyze the consequences of poaching, particularly on the Bahamian economy and society. On the expansion of Objective 5, if poaching is not fought against, it can lead to many devastations. Thus, effective methods must be implemented by various groups and communities to ease the problem. There are several strategies used to combat poaching activities, which include establishing or modifying laws and regulations, develop protected areas, especially for high-risk ecosystems, spread awareness to the public on the topic, and forming specific units or organizations to regulate and manage poaching activity. The Royal Bahamas Defense Force is the military protection unit in the Bahamas who fulfills various important roles. One of their roles being to protect the country marine borders from illegal entry of foreigners. There are also various marine-related or wildlife preservation organizations who advocate against poaching or many destructive activities to the environment that also establish preventative measures to reduce the occurrence of the illegal fishing in the Bahamas. And for Objective 6, oh man, hold on. Okay. Objective 6, develop possible ways to reduce poaching. Trial and error is a fundamental method of problem solving. It is characterized by repeated, varied attempts, which are continued until success or until the practitioner stops trying. Poaching has been an existing conflict in the Bahamas between Hispanic communities since the 1980s. Various approaches to reduce poaching activity in Bahamian waters have been implemented. More effective methods must be implemented to further control poachers from fishing in Bahamian waters and will be developed through the research of other studies and suitably applying it to circumstances of this country. So now I review the literature review. For my objective 2, which is to discuss the Afro, Latino, and Bahamian relations, I think that this article would be suitable. It's titled Coastal Fisheries of Latin America and the Caribbean. So basically, the authors of this source just reviewed the fishing industry in several Latin American and Caribbean countries. So I think it shows the relations as far as the fishing industry, the practices, the different type of fish they harvest, the social problems, the economic benefits. It ties in all the commonalities within that specific sector in all these countries. So I think I compare it to like why the Cubans and Dominicans would fish in the Bahamas because of the type of fish we may have that they also have, and its proximity and all those similarities. And for Objective 4, this is the source that I think would be suitable to observe the impacts poaching has on communities. This source is entitled A Case Study of Abalone Fishing in South Africa. So this is similar to what my research paper is trying to do. It just observes the poaching conflict, specifically on abalone fisheries, which is like shellfish, and how poaching really resulted in high crime rates, but it's because of different discriminatory legislations the government established, which caused the rise in poaching. But it also discusses ways to prevent poaching. So I think that's suitable for that objective. Objective 5, analyze methods local officials are using in combating the problem. I used contemporary and emerging fisheries in the Bahamas. This is one of the very few research articles that I found on the fishing industry in the Bahamas. It just basically gives a background on like statistics of what type of fish are fish over here, the different laws, the conflicts, the threats towards the Bahamian fishing industry, the different management of the Bahamian fishing industry, and stuff like that. So I think that's a good source to get the different methods that are used to combat poaching and other challenges the industry may face. And then finally, for objective 6, to develop possible ways to reduce poaching by Afro-Latino fishermen. This isn't about fishing. This source, preventing wildlife crime solutions that could overcome the commons. This source isn't about fishing, and it's definitely not about Afro-Latinos, but it is about poaching. And I feel like it will be beneficial to this topic because I could apply it to a Bahamian situation easily because poaching around the world, they all produce similar consequences and the impacts of poaching are all basically the same, even if they're poaching like other animals, like rhinos or elephants or whatever. I think all of that could all be put under the same umbrella and could easily be studied in the Bahamas, and its impacts could be seen over here as well. So for the methodology, I'll go over the descriptive quantitative methods, the surveys and interviews, the sample, and social media and Google Forms. So descriptive quantitative methods is a research method that attempts to collect quantifiable information for statistical analysis of the population sample. It is a popular market research tool that allows us to collect and describe the demographic segments nature. Using surveys and research, respondents answer through surveys or questionnaires or polls. They are a popular market research tool to collect feedback from respondents. A survey to gather useful data should have the right questions. It should be a balanced mix of open-end questions and closed-ended questions. The survey method can be conducted online or offline, making it the go-to option for descriptive research where the sample size is enormous, even though in my case, mine is small. So these are my proposed survey and interview questions. The first is, do you think the fishing industry is important in the Bahamas? The second, how serious do you feel that the current situation with poaching is in the Bahamas? I'll ask the participants to rate that on a scale of 1 to 5. The third, are you in agreement with the 2020 Fisheries Bill, in particular Section 31 that reads, prohibition on commercial fishing by persons who are not citizens of the Bahamas? The fourth, do you believe that foreign-born fishermen should have a right to fish in Bahamian waters if they are married to a Bahamian? Fifth, do you think that there is a possible prejudice against Hispanic fishermen who fish in Bahamian waters? I'm going to rate that on a scale of 1 to 5. Six, are you aware of other nationalities other than Cuban and, that was supposed to say Dominican, Dominicans who poach in Bahamian waters? If yes, who? 7, how strongly do you feel that local authorities and organizations are sufficiently combating poaching in the Bahamas? 8, how impactful do you think poaching is on the economy? Rate 1 to 5. 9, how impactful do you think poaching is on the environment? Rate 1 to 5. 10, do you think foreign governments must play a role in mitigating poaching by their citizens alongside the Bahamian government? And 11, do you think that implementing a premium tax on Bahamian fisheries specifically to allow foreigners to fish will resolve the problem for all groups involved? So lastly, I discussed my sample population. I will try to get about 10 participants from backgrounds of a RBDF officer or anyone who works in the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, fishermen, officials from the fishery industry, dependents or family members of fishermen, and then nationalities will include Bahamian, Dominicans, or Cubans. And I plan to use social media or Google Forms to reach out to these individuals. And that's the end of my presentation.
Maravilloso. Dame felicitaciones, increíble la presentación. Increíble. La verdad que felicidades, felicitaciones. I found incredible topic when you say one of the questions is the tax a special tax for foreigner fishing a solution? And I want to ask you, where do you get this from?
No, that was impossible because one of my objectives, my objective 6, is to develop possible ways to reduce poaching. So in my survey, I decided to ask the participants, do you think that implementing a premium tax on Bahamian fisheries?
Yeah, but this premium tax for the fishery, where do you get this word from, this idea from?
I just made it up.
That could be an incredible proposal, you know, a very impacting in the society solution. That's why I say, if you have read it, if you have found, if you have listened, if you have be exposed to information that modulate your thinking in order to find this this idea, you need to establish the link, because this kind of idea is a $1,000 $1,000 million idea, you know, because you can become this in the way how you create your professional performance the rest of your life, you know, providing consulting to the government and making policy or something like that. I don't know. Or to defining a theoretical approach into the economics to propose a new tax that have not existed and have never been carried out, and this is your creation, and you could develop this creation theoretically into the economics and or international law or the taxation law, something like that. In this discipline, I mean, and you could produce a PhD or something like that. So it's incredible, this what you say. And then in the objective 3, when you in the objective 3 you refer to the Spanish people. I don't know if you Spanish poacher. If you refer to the Spanish poacher who speak Spanish or the poacher from Spain. So that's why this is interesting clarification. Objective 3 was when you're talking about the Spanish poachers. Because usually you were referring to Dominican, Cuban, clearly, and then you say Spanish. So what happened with this Spanish? Is it Spanish speaking poachers or or poachers from Spain. Well, that's why just consider what's the objective, what's included in the objective 3. And I don't see what are your sample. I didn't understood. I found very, I appreciate, the subtitles, because for me it's wonderful to follow everything understood. Thank you for that. But yeah, what I don't know, I don't got it, is who are you going to interview? And how many of them are these people? Okay, about them, okay. And background, read teacher officers, officials, independent family member officer. Okay, got it. Yes, silenciado Jesús. That's it. Yeah. Roberta, I want to listen your opinion about her work. Saluda. Señora Murray. Señorita. Alexandria, then. Alexa.
Yeah, I'm here. I mean, I think it's really well put together, and
Also with the Roberta, also you can, sorry for the interruption, you can provide, Daniel and Roberta, and I want to listen. Okay, sorry.
yeah, I was saying I think it's really well put together on both of their own. And so how are you you're just gonna like find these people? I think you said social media, or like you're just gonna go to the Defense Force base. So like,
No, I have some people in my family who are
okay.
Yeah, and fishermen too. So I
Okay.
just reach out to them and ask them if they could also recommend who I could ask as well.
Okay, that's good. So you already have like that network there. With Roberta, I think I could really relate with what she was saying, especially like me actively experiencing like the Spanish, like not the right connection. I think for me, it has to do a lot with me being lazy and procrastination. But besides that, she's looking more at the teaching aspects and stuff. I don't know. I don't know what it is about teaching that they like why it isn't effective, but I wanted to ask her, like, how is she not measuring, but like, how is she making a position on that, I guess? Like, is it by BGCSE grades in Spanish, or is it just like based off your experience? Because I know she said like the Spanish, like we're not where we're supposed to be. So basically I'm asking like, how does she know that basically? Or is it just like her hypothesis or her thoughts? Or like, is she basing it off of like, okay, for the past 10 years in BGCSE or whatever, we've been getting like D's or something, or I don't know. It's just something I thought about. She probably may not even know, so.
And I don't know if you're listening.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's listening, but if she want, like how for my objective 6, on my past research studies courses, we always had to like develop a way to, like a suggestion, how to improve the situation. So it just popped up in my mind while he was talking, Alexandria, that maybe what schools could implement is like an exchange program, a student exchange program, like probably in the summer, we could visit a Spanish speaking country, live there, get to know the culture, force us to speak the language, stuff like that. Because maybe the traditional ways of teaching isn't practical, especially with learning another language. In my other classes for Spanish, I talked to some my classmates, and they said that they are better at Spanish because they traveled to and they lived in Spanish speaking countries. Because I always wondered how they're so good at speaking Spanish and they sound nice and fluent, but it's really because they either like surround themselves with Spanish, like listening to the music or watching movies and series, or they actually lived in a Spanish-speaking country at one point at time. So I feel like a student exchange program could help with students learning the language. So yeah, she could incorporate that in a paper.
Yeah, definitely. Everything, all these decisions and programs, ideas are good to improve. What you say is interesting because what I think is that we need to foster the motivation of the people. How you motivate? And that is the key of everything. As soon as you motivate, maybe tomorrow you get in love of a Puerto Rican guy and you start to speak Spanish, you know, or Argentina or whatever. And as soon as you get in love, you start to speak, and you know, this is another way how the people speak Spanish, not only because they are, you know, always listening music or watching series or talking by Facebook, or because they live, or because they have a relation. So all it's about to get the motivation on, you know, to find a way to to yeah, to promote, to foster how everybody study, because any of us have our way to learn. So yeah, the key point is, you know, allocate time enough to each people in order to foster their way. But this is impossible. So that's why, you know, this kind of idea is definitely something that improve and contribute with the learning. But what I think, what I want to do is I miss in the country an attitude more open to the languages and with the culture. You know, when I talk with the people locally, there is a lack of intercultural muscle. You know, the people only speak English. So what about if we, you know, improve that? If we create a program and we sell the program to the president and we got $5 million to create a new anuncios en la calle por todos lados, una propaganda por todos lados, en todas las lenguas, en español, en francés, en ruso, en inglés, en alemán, en todas las lenguas, por todos lados, por todas las calles, por todas, solamente en Nueva Providencia, en Azor. Es una cosa pequeña, es un programa accesible desde el punto de vista estatal. Y solamente eso va a crear un impacto en las personas. Y las personas van a empezar a ver farmacia, apteca, botica. What is that? Well, that's the different way to the pharmacy. And what is this? Bus, autobus, guagua, whatever, you know. And the other is, and only that, only this is a passive campaign. Only this improve the knowledge of the people, because the people will see what happened here. What happened here? What happened here? And what is happening is that the people, the state is telling you that the street is calle, is rua, slitza. I don't know what other language, how do you say street in other language? But as soon as the people, the normal people know the few words, when the tourists come, you know, you will have something to say, something to share, something to interact, and that will contribute, you know, the experience of the tourists, the experience of the people, and everything will be better. And it's only, we are not talking only about the education, we're talking about the urban social policies, you know, national policies. So, well, we have to finish. Thank you very much for everything. I appreciate the presentation of Roberta and Dane. Alexandria on Tuesday, sin falta. I'm sorry. And Roberta y Dane, well, lo mejor del mundo. Súper feliz con ustedes. Vamos a seguir avanzando. Let's keep on. And yes, because we need to think on. Well, we talk about this on Thursday because it's already 5 minutes more of the class. So, muchísimas gracias. Do you have any question, any comment before to finish?
No.
Well, muchas gracias. Hasta la próxima.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.